So welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. I'm so glad you're able to join us tonight. Those of you who are listening to us on live stream on YouTube or on Mixer or on the podcast, welcome as well. Thank you so much for joining us. The link that you see that I posted in the chat, and I'm going to do it one more time just so everybody knows it, is the link for the podcast for Podbean, which will be the live podcast that we're broadcasting right now. So if you want to listen on the podcast, you're having problems hearing, you're more than welcome to go there. That'll actually help you. It'll be a little bit of a delay. It's not a big one, but it is a little bit of a delay. But it does change it. So you'll be a little behind us. The podcast, but if you're hearing us, and I'm hoping you are, hi Bon Bon. Hi Jay. What was that? Bonnie's doing gymnastics now. You're going to do a gymnastics routine, and I need to know about it, okay? Because I need to move the steps back. So, if you got your Bibles, and I hope you do, I'm going to ask you to invite you to join with me in Ruth chapter 3, and then we're going to finish up in chapter 4. I'm hoping that you've gotten a lot out of this book of Ruth. And so today we come to part 3 of this series on the book of Ruth. And those of you wondering, well, this is kind of weird. What has this got to do for us today? And so I hope when we get to the end of this, you're going to see how this applies and how the whole book points us in a specific direction. Have you ever read a book or watched a movie when something happens at the end that makes you look back at everything that happened before and think, now this makes sense? Well, that's kind of what's going to happen tonight. We're going, or today, or whatever time it is, wherever you are, it's going to make you look back at everything and say, oh, now that makes sense. That all ties together. And it's going to happen today in a way that I pray will encourage you and maybe change your life a little. I know there are people who are listening today, and some of you, this is a new experience for you. So I'm hoping that this becomes something that will have an impact on your life. And don't get me wrong, I know that this is not going to solve all the world problem and create world peace and all that other stuff. I realize that. So I want you to understand that I know that. So we've got a lot of ground to cover. And so let's jump right in. And like we did before, we're going to read through part of it. We're going to kind of pick out the highlights, and then we're going to look at how we apply it. So let me go back. I'm going to kind of summarize this. Like, believe me, this isn't the whole story, and I'm kind of glossing over things, but I kind of want you to see this. So what we have is, we'll start with Naomi, right? Naomi and her husband Elimelech and their 2 sons, and they left the promised land of Bethlehem and moved to the despised land of Moab. Remember, Moab was this place that nobody was supposed to go. And after they were in Moab, Elimelech died, and both of Naomi's sons died. And she was left with her 2 daughter-in-laws, both of them from Moab, Orpah and Ruth. Naomi decided to go back to Bethlehem. Orpah stayed in Moab, but Ruth committed herself to Naomi. So they both come back to Bethlehem with 2 big problems. And this the story needs to solve. First, they needed food and provisions. They needed to be able to feed themselves. And then second, they needed to be able to have family to take care of them. So when Naomi comes back to Bethlehem, she was hurting, no hope, eager for those problems being solved, and she at this point was a despised Moabite daughter-in-law named Ruth by her side. So, then one day, the daughter-in-law just happens to find herself in the fields of Boaz. Boaz is from the clan of Amalek, and Boaz went out of his way to provide for and protect Ruth. Then a romantic chapter 2 closed with the first need met. Ruth and Naomi had food, but they still lacked family, and Boaz didn't seem to be taking any initiative to solve that problem. So that's kind of where we left off last week. Of course, we did cover a little bit of chapter 3, where Naomi and Ruth sat down and they make this plan, where, because Boaz doesn't seem to be taking initiative, so, Naomi begins concocting a plan for Ruth to take some initiative, going at night to Boaz on the threshing floor, lying down next to him and uncovering his feet. And we're not sure what all that means, but we do know that this was daring and very dangerous. Here's the problem, of course, and so you know. This could have happened one of 3 ways. Boaz could have woke up, saw her, and threw her out. Basically, screamed at her, yelled at her, told her she was embarrassing him, humiliating him. She was this lowly worker, and she shouldn't be there, and thrown her out of the field and thrown her out of his life altogether. So he could have rejected her completely. Or he could have taken advantage of her, which I don't think Boaz would have, but anyway, we know that Boaz was a man of honor. We talked about that last week. He was a worthy man. So, their choice is that basically she's suggesting that she's available for marriage. So, and I need to pause here and show you, so here's the reality. So, we get to Ruth 3:6, and so she went down to the threshing floor and did just as her mother-in-law had commanded her. And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of grain. And remember what we said here, they're doing this because they're guarding the grain. They winnowed it, they've got it all harvested, and it's all winnowed, so it's all turned into barley. Now they've gotten rid of all the chaff. Now, here I want you to take a second and put yourself in Ruth's shoes. She is snuck into some hiding place near the threshing floor. She's sitting there watching quietly. You can almost hear her heart beating nervously. I mean, she doesn't know what's going to happen. She has no clue. She's watching her man winnow, and as his work draws to a close, she goes down the far end grain pile, where no one else happens to be, and lies down, looks up at the stars, and quietly drifts off to sleep. All while Ruth sits back waiting for clues to know when he... So, Ruth does not want to move too soon. She waits until it's time. Then, she came softly, uncovered his feet, and laid down. Now, there she is. She's done it. Ruth has uncovered Boaz's feet. She's lying down either perpendicular or parallel to him. We don't know. What we do know is that her heart is beating really fast right now. And the audience is squirming with fear and excitement. What is going to happen next? Verse 8 says, And at midnight the man was startled and turned over, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. Something startled him. Now, some commentators believe that maybe it was the cool breeze on his legs, probably kicked in, and woke him. He reaches over to cover his feet again, and to his amazement, he sees a woman. Behold, the text says, a woman. Undoubtedly, Ruth was awake. I doubt seriously she had gotten to sleep. It's not like she could have easily fallen asleep lying next to Boaz. So she's laying there looking at him, just waiting for the moment that he wakes up. Can you just picture that, right? I mean, I used to have a Labrador Retriever, and his way of getting me up in the morning was to climb up on the bed with me and get right in my face and stare. And I'd wake up to this heavy breathing and look over to these 2 big brown eyes standing right there staring at me, inch from my nose. I kind of think that's how Boaz felt, startled. So he looks up, sees her, and says, "Who are you?" Now, here's the thing: we don't know how Boaz said that. I mean, he might have said it like, he was confused. Who are you? Or was shock. Who are you? Or it was a simple whisper. Who are you? I don't know. But the question is so significant because this is the question of the book. Who is Ruth? She was a Moabite because she looks like an Israelite in the whole story. Who is this woman? Ruth responds. She's referred to herself as Boaz's lowest rung in the social ladder. But that's not how she answers this one. Even though it's translated the same, it's actually a different word in the original language of the Old Testament. The word here refers to a woman who's eligible for marriage. And it leads directly into Ruth's next statement. Now, we all know that what Naomi told her to do was she was to lay there and do what he told her. She wasn't supposed to say anything other than I'm Ruth or whatever. She just... And so she answers, I am Ruth, your servant. Spread your wings over your servant, for you are a redeemer. This is where things get really interesting, because if you notice, Ruth just left Naomi's game plan in the dust, right? Naomi had said, uncover his feet and he will tell you what to do. After she identifies herself, the audience who's listening to this story is waiting now for Boaz to have the next words. But instead, Ruth keeps going, saying, spread your wings over your servant. And this is a common phrase for the protection a husband would give his wife in marriage. Talk about bold. The audience is now wondering what in the world has gotten into Ruth. She's just outright said, you're a redeemer, which means you can marry me. She just outright said it, right? It's extraordinary. A servant telling her boss he can marry her. A Moabite telling an Israelite what he can do. A poor woman giving rich instructions to a rich man. That is forward, to say the least. So, Ruth uses the same language Boaz had used back in chapter 2 when he prayed that the Lord would give Ruth refuge under his wings. Ruth has just said, hey Boaz, you know that prayer you prayed for me? And I don't know how she would have done this, but she didn't. Well, you can be the answer to that prayer if you will take me under your wings as your wife. You gotta love it when your wife uses scripture at you, right? You guy who's married or has my fiance, when she's upset with me, she quotes Bible verses at me. It makes me shut up. But the picture here is bigger than just about Naomi as Ruth. As a redeemer, there would be responsibility to care for Naomi also. Ruth is appealing to Boaz to protect not only her, but her family. So the audience waits to see what in the world Boaz is going to do. You can feel the tension in the air. Imagine the shock on Boaz's face and the thoughts running through his head as Ruth speaks to him. And finally he responds. And he said, may you be blessed by the Lord, my daughter. You have made this last kindness greater than the first, in that you have not gone after young men, whether rich or poor. We breathe a sigh of relief. He speaks to her in kind, affectionate terms. Now, my daughter is a kind of, and we might think, well, he's thinking of her as a kid, as a daughter. It's not really the term there. It's a term of affection. It's somebody who's very dear to you. Boaz has no intention of taking advantage of her in any way. He is struck now for the second time by her kindness. Remember the word that we used there, the word loving kindness? It's hesed, right? We talked about this a couple weeks ago. And Boaz continues, and now, my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you all that you ask. For all my fellow townspeople know that you are a worthy woman. I came across this as I was looking. In the original Old Testament scrolls, the book of Proverbs actually precedes the book of Ruth. Not that way in our Old Testament, but in the original scrolls, the book of Proverbs ended and the book of Ruth was tagged right to the end of it. And so Proverbs 31, which is the one about a godly woman, and so you imagine reading Proverbs 31 that speaks of an excellent wife, and turning the page and reading the story of Ruth, and you get through 11, it's the exact same language in the Hebrew that's used in Proverbs 31 to describe that woman. Same language, same word. At this point, we're ready to see this marriage happen, like right now. You can almost hear the wedding bells in the background, but listen to what Boaz says to Ruth next. You can almost hear the wedding bells in the background, but listen to what Boaz says to Ruth next. Let's throw a monkey wrench in there, old Boaz. Now it is true that I am a redeemer, but there is a redeemer nearer than I. Uh-oh, we got a problem. There's somebody else. There's another guy who has the first right to redeem, provide for, and care for Ruth and Naomi. Now I'll explain more about that in a minute, but Boaz explains this to Ruth. Remain tonight, and in the morning, if he will redeem you, good, let him do it. But if he is not willing to redeem you, then, as the Lord lives, I will redeem you. Lie down until the morning. Booth says to Ruth,